we're really pleased to welcome all of you here. I know you come from very different countries and time zone in the world. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. My name is Sabrina Zucchello. I'm Senior Manager in Women's Cancers, and I'm leading the work in breast cancer at UICC. And I will be the moderator for today's virtual dialogue. I'm here today with my colleague, Caroline Glor. She is coordinator in Women's Cancers, working closely with me, and she will be here also to animate the chat as we go in this virtual dialogue. So today we are 5 years after the launch of the Global Breast Cancer Initiative that was launched by WHO in 2021. And this initiative has a very clear ambition. It is to reduce the breast cancer mortality globally by 2.5% a year, which could save 2.5 million lives over 20 years. And this ambition has been translated into concrete targets that we called 60, 60, 80. The first 60 is for 60% of breast cancer are diagnosed at an early stage. The diagnosis should be within 60 days from the first presentation. That's the second 60. And the 80 target is that 80% of patients are receiving multimodal treatment without abandonment. These targets are operationalized through the GBCI implementation framework, which helps countries translate these ambitions into concrete actions. And there has been strong advancements since the initiative was launched 5 years ago. Well, first, the breast cancer community has moved towards a more structured global approach to advance breast cancer control, thanks to this framework. The second is that we're seeing early efforts to align the GBCI targets with national planning. And the third is about political momentum around breast cancer. And we can see that rising in various ways. One way is that breast cancer has now been explicitly recognized in the UN high-level political declaration on NCDs. And there are other strong regional signs. For instance, the Cairo Call to Action from October 25, where countries in the Middle East committed to accelerate the GBCI implementation by setting out priorities for governments and partners with a focus on political leadership, and also stronger system. Sorry, I'm just going to mute everybody because I can hear some noises here. Alongside this growing momentum, we're also seeing the release of new tools and evidence that are designed to help this progress in global breast cancer care. And this is why we decided to host this virtual dialogue today to show some of these tools to you. The first one we wanted to briefly mention is the Breast Cancer Policy Brief. This is a document that was developed by UICC and launched in October. Excuse me, I still hear some noises that needs to be muted. So the Breast Cancer Policy Brief has been developed by UICC in collaboration with different experts and advocates at a global level, but also a regional level. And some of them are here as speakers today. Dr. Cardozo and Dr. Myra Kalepi are two of the experts who helped us draft this important document, which is a practical advocacy tool that translates the GBCI into a set of priority actions for decision makers. And this is a tool for advocates to use these global targets and include them in national ask with these 14 actionable recommendations that you can see now on the slides. And that's a sort of menu of priority actions that advocates can push for inclusion. For instance, in inclusion in national cancer control plans, in UHC benefit package, or in annual health sector operational plans. And in that document that I encourage you to have a look at, and we're going to share the link in the chat, there is this call to action that we wanted to share with the whole cancer community. That is that governments and advocates must urgently make breast cancer a national health priority, integrating early detection, timely diagnosis, and equitable treatment to save lives, advance women's rights, and strengthen health systems for the future. And so what are the other tools that we have today and we wanted to present with you? We are now going to move to the first speaker that we are pleased to welcome today, and this is Dr. Mayra Kalefi. Welcome, Mayra. Mayra, you are the Chief of Breast Cancer Center at Hospital Moinhos de Bento. You're UICC board member, and you're also a member of the Breast Cancer Care Council, which you're going to let us know a little bit today. So Mayra, we wanted to hear from you about this important tool that will dig into how to measure and ensure that quality of care is taken into consideration into breast cancer actions. So Mayra, what is the tool that you're going to present to us today, and how can advocates use it concretely in their day-to-day work?
Thank you so much. I am pleased to be here with among you all and my colleagues. I think that this is a very interesting tool, as you said. The BBCQI is something that we really would like to show to you. We had few opportunities to show before that in the World Cancer Leaders Summit back in November in Melbourne, but still we are growing on exposing the BBCQI because it's a new tool. It's very comprehensive and it's been published twice already in the last few months. So we'll have in this presentation the publications reference for you to get. Next slide, and this looks across the breast cancer care continuum. This is really something that we try to cover research, early detection, diagnosis, treatment, and management. Access to optimal care also is a problem, and mostly, particularly in low and middle income countries. And really, I'd like to emphasize here that many nations are still off track to meet the World Health Organization Global Breast Cancer Initiative. And we want to add efforts to that. And we try to represent here in our group a kind of catalyst of engaging for policymakers, advocates, and really people that deliver the care into these very important targets that the GBCI published and announced a few years ago. Next, what I would like to emphasize is that we anchor our group in the WHO GBCI. So we try to translate global standards into action. And we have the second paper is really the first paper is the framework, and we can really have the dimensions, the 3 GBCI pillar dimensions translated here in this paper. When I say, you see that by 2025, we only have 7 countries achieving the 2.5% GBCI annual target. So we really would like to make it easier for countries to put this in practice and have our goal together, because we need to offer policy recommendations for health systems that people can apply in mostly low middle income countries. Next, we can see in the next slide, we can see that the paper that we just published in 2026 is a call to action for many stakeholders to really to get hands of that. We say that improving breast cancer outcomes through quality care, and we call this paper the call to action paper, because we are thinking about how we can better implement the cancer care index and how we can achieve better the 2.5 percentage decrease in mortality. So we have really a roadmap how to do that. And if you see, we are translating, for example, the early breast cancer detection, timely breast cancer diagnosis, comprehensive breast cancer management, and a strong and resilient healthcare systems strengthening in our roadmap. So comparing national policies, we are also trying to put some indicators in these 4 dimensions, in each dimension that we are talking about, and we would like to to do that not only at national level. We are aiming also to have people working on this in the subnational level and perhaps local level, because we understand how sometimes different are systems and the equity to access within countries. Brazil is one big example for that. We have a good mortality rate, not so as good as we'd like, but better mortality rates for breast cancer in some areas and terrible in other areas. Next slide, please. We are talking about a tiered, actionable recommendation to offer alignment in each level of achievement. And I have to say that this is like an effort of many experts that really helped us to put this in place. And this is like also not only experts in cancer care, but also advocates and people that are really working on the ground. So the most important thing that I can tell you is that we have to review these recommendations. We have to make this a question or a solution of following the GBCI in locally, trying to really help health systems capacity. We are developing this practical roadmap by defining times, by defining who are the stakeholders to be involved. So we really go into details before we start this approach. Next. The other thing that it will be important to say, because we are giving few moments to talk to you, and we are happy to discuss this later. All this have been published. Again, I'm telling you, so it's not something that you can just from this presentation you go ahead and do. No, we are happy to help. We are a group together partnering with UICC and others to make this happen. And I'm sure if we can bridge these gaps to advance care for all, the BBCQI acts as a practical bridge between global targets and national action. It emphasizes on flexibility, country ownership, and real-world applicability makes it a valuable companion tool to accelerate breast cancer-specific progress. It's important. It's not only national, subnational, and local, and we can perhaps with this cancer control, including this in cancer control plans, we can also broader NCD agendas, offering a global North Star for countries to align with. I'm here until the end of this presentation, and I'm happy to answer questions. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Sabrina, Kirsty, and UICC, and we keep moving bridges, mountains, and all these targets that gaps that we have in our countries. Thank you so much.
Sabrina, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Myra. And it's true that we need all of us here, all the community of the people who are here online to make this mountain move, because there are so many needs still present in breast cancer care. And we're going to hear a bit more right now about these needs, in particular, the needs of advanced breast cancer patients, and what's their place in the advocacy space. So we are pleased today to welcome our second speaker, Dr. Fatima Cardozo, who is the president of the Advanced Breast Cancer Global Alliance. Welcome, Fatima. And with you, we want to hear about what is the new report that you have recently launched. We know it was years of research and gathering data around advanced breast cancer, and we're pleased today to hear more about this work and how advocates can also include advanced breast cancer in conversations around cancer care. The floor is yours, Fatima. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sabrina, and to UICC for the opportunity to share very briefly the results of this report. So just to just a few seconds to explain for those of you who might not know what is the ABC Global Alliance. So we are a sort of federation. So our members are also organizations, and they gather all the stakeholders that have an interest in specifically in advanced or metastatic breast cancer, coming from the patient advocacy side, the patients themselves, from healthcare providers or different physicians, nurses, and others, as well as pharma diagnostic companies, policymakers, so everyone who would have an interest to improve the lives of patients living with advanced or metastatic breast cancer. And we are now more than 300 members in more than 120 countries. And 10 years ago, when we created the ABC Global Alliance, we had done a first report looking at the decade 2005 to 2015. And what we have seen that in that decade, very little progress had been made for advanced breast cancer. And that was the basis for us to create our global charter with 10 goals that have united the ABC community moving forward. So all our members fighting for achieving of those 10 goals. So now the decade has come to an end. It was from 2015 to 2025. And we spent almost 2 years going back and evaluating for each of the goals what has been the progress and what are still the gaps that remain and need to be addressed. And fortunately, we can say that a lot of progress has happened in many of the goals. Unfortunately, what we can say is that this progress has not been equal everywhere. So one of the goals is related to access to care. And if I summarize the report in a sentence, I can say there has been progress, except in inequalities, because inequalities are now bigger than they were 10 years ago, not just between countries, but also within each country, as we heard Mayra explain that this is a big problem. For all the details about this report, you have the QR code in this slide, and you will find the full report. And you also have a link to a special issue of the breast, and there is open access as well, where you have 11 manuscripts that function as executive summaries for each of the goals. I will only have time to give you just a very brief summary of what we have found. Next slide, please. At least for me, okay. So what our first goal is improving survival. And what you can see here, and please focus on the red square, is the evolution of the 5-year survival rate for metastatic breast cancer. This means people that are alive at 5 years after the diagnosis of metastasis. And you can see that in the previous decade, from the 90s to the early 2000s, all we had improved was from 23 to 26%. So really very, very small improvements. In this last decade, we went from 26 to 33%. Still small steps, but at least bigger than they were before, and we are going into the right direction. This is all breast cancer together, all subtypes. If we look at different subtypes, we see that the HER2 positive breast cancer has had the biggest improvement. And it's now very frequent that patients can live more than 10 years with this subtype for as long as they have access to the treatments. We also have seen an improvement in the most frequent subtype, the hormonal dependent, which now has a median survival of more than 5 years. Where we haven't seen much advances is in the triple negative, with only 3 months improvement in a whole decade. Next slide. Regarding quality of life, we have seen some improvement throughout the decade. However, as you see here in the slide for the green bars, you see that the cancer still very negatively impacts a lot of aspects of the lives of the patients, by be it physical functioning, emotional or psychological well-being, ability to complete the usual roles or responsibilities, cognitive functioning. They are all negatively impacted by the cancer and the treatments. It's very interesting to see that what is less negatively impacted are relationships. Next slide, please. However, and as I mentioned to you, when we go for accessibility to care, and we can discuss these in various forms, accessibility to radiotherapy, to high quality pathology and diagnostic tests, to palliative care, as you can see here in this graphic. In the light blue, you see patients who have never been offered palliative care. So you see, independent of the country, of the region, is still a very high proportion of patients that have not been offered palliative or supportive care. When we look at access to medicines, it's the same thing, very unequal access, not just to expensive medicines, but also to non-expensive the medicines, but for which we still have shortages. And next slide, please. We see also that inequities are in the participation of clinical trials. What you can see here is the percentage of patients who have not participated in trials. And you see again, in a very different geographic distribution, it is still very hard to have more than 10% of patients, of cancer patients, going into trials. This is even in high-income countries. In low-income countries and middle-income countries is even worse. And we all know that participating in clinical trials is an opportunity to get access to new treatments, and is also an opportunity to improve the quality of care in the country. Next slide, please. So in terms of inequities, as I mentioned, these have increased, and this is reflected in what we call the direct costs of cancer, so treating the cancer itself, but as well as the indirect costs, meaning, for example, people who have to stop working, and by stopping to work, they stop producing and also stop having a salary. And so all these, the out-of-pocket costs that are increasing rapidly for all patients around the world, even in high-income countries also, and the reality in low-middle-income countries is even worse. This leads to a very important negative impact in the financial security of patients around the world. And you can see here, the darker the color, the bigger the financial impact, the negative financial impact of the disease. And next slide, please. So I had to summarize all the findings in very short time, but what I can also tell you is that, for example, in what concerns stigma and misconceptions, you know that we live in a world of a lot of fake news and misconceptions around cancer, and particularly around metastatic or advanced breast cancer, are still very much present throughout the world, and they contribute to the feelings of isolation of these patients. So based on the findings of this report covering the last decade, we have rewritten our ABC Global Charter with these 10 goals. They very much focus on the whole patient, not just exclusively on treatment-related issues. And you see that we continue to want to improve survival and improve quality of life of patients. But we also want high-quality data. Namely, we want to be able to know how many people are living with metastatic breast cancer, which is something we don't know in no country in the world, because cancer registers are still not registering relapse. We want all the patients to have access to multidisciplinary care and according to evidence-based medicine, according to high-quality guidelines, because this improves survival as well. We want to improve the communication between healthcare professionals and patients, meet the informational needs of these patients, have all of these patients have access to supportive services, from psychosocial support to palliative care, without having to pay out of pocket. And we'll continue to fight for better access, better equality in access, fight against the stigma, and also for the legal rights of patients living with this disease. So I hope that everybody that is interested in advanced breast cancer and in metastatic breast cancer, which is a huge proportion of breast cancer patients, can join forces with us to fight for all of these objectives in the next decade. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fatima, for sharing this important information. People can see in the chat the Global Charter, also the Decade Report, and previous information on BCCQI. There's the call to action that was shared here, and also the framework itself of the BCCQI. So please feel free to reach out directly to the speakers on these important tools to see how you can use them, or feel free also to reach to us, UICC, and we can also put you in touch. We will now move towards our third speaker with a last presentation for you on a new resource that can be used to inspire advocates to advance the GBCI targets. And for this, we want to warmly welcome Marzia Zambon, Marzia is the executive director of Europa Donna. And Marzia, we're listening to you on how you're doing this fantastic work at the European level to advance breast cancer care. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you all. I made it in time to listen to Fatima's talk. We are proud members of the ABC Global Alliance and board members. So we, as a European organization, represent Europe in ABC Global and its effort to make sure that metastatic breast cancer is and stays high on the political agenda and factual agenda of worldwide. So thank you for having me. I'm so happy that I made it on time. And I don't have slides to share, but I'd like to share with you a project that we have been carrying out in the past, actually more than a decade, but actively a year. And I'd like to give like an example of what we've been doing. So the issue that I would be covering is how do patient organizations move from advocacy to action? Because advocacy alone is not enough. We are the largest and oldest patient organization in the European continent. We represent 47 different countries. And still today, we notice that there are inequalities across countries, within countries, as everybody has said until now, not only worldwide, but also in Europe. This should be, and the EU, which has had the honor of having Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, activating very, very important policy actions in the interest of its citizens. So the real goal that we have as advocacy organization is to influence decisions, shape policy, and create measurable impact of what we're actually doing. So at Europa Donna for over 30 years, now 32 years in, we have been working to represent the rights of people affected by breast cancer, and we advocate for quality care, support, and early detection. And over time, we have noticed a shift. Patients are no longer just recipients of care. They are increasingly partners in shaping healthcare systems. And we have also noticed that driving political will is key. Let me start by placing today's discussion in a context. The recent publication by Oncopedia features Europa Donna as the first European patient organization recognized for successfully driving political change at a European level. Europa Donna was instrumental in passing 2 resolutions and 2 written declarations by the European Parliament, all specific to a sole disease type, which was a first. It had never happened, breast cancer, aimed at improving early detection, screening, and optimal treatment. This is a very important starting point because it shows that patient organizations are not only advocates. We can actually be drivers of policy, partners of institutions, and catalysts for change. Driving change at the institutional level also means going beyond seeking political support. It requires active involvement in the initiatives that shape and implement policies, ensuring they are truly reflecting the patient's needs. That's why Europa Donna has been engaged in the European Commission Initiative on Breast Cancer since its inception in 2015. We have been contributing to the development of European screening and early detection European guidelines, and we continue today to develop and help implement quality assurance schemes for proper specialized breast cancer units, centers. We are also part of the EU Health Technology Assessment Stakeholders Group, working alongside political institutions, clinicians, industry, and civil society in order to ensure that the patient's voice is embedded throughout all of the decision-making processes. But policy is only one side of the story. So let's take a step back. In 2008, Europa Donna launched Breast Health Day So we established October 15th as a moment to shift the narrative away from the disease and toward health. Instead of focusing on breast cancer awareness, as in during October month, the pink October, we chose to promote prevention, health style, and self-care. So what was common sense then in 2008 is now solid evidence-based scientific fact. Prevention works. Positive lifestyle changes can reduce the risk of breast cancer occurrence and reoccurrence up to 37%. And early detection saves lives. And yet, despite this evidence, prevention remains underfunded, especially in Europe. Across EU countries, only around 5% of health expenditures are allocated to prevention programs at a national level. And this is the paradox that we're trying to address, because prevention should not only be considered a cost, it is an investment in a healthier and more productive population, and in the sustainability of our healthcare systems. Breast Health Day was designed not only as an awareness campaign, but as a practical tool. A tool for national organizations to deliver consistent, evidence-based communication, a tool to engage citizens, and most importantly, a tool to speak to policymakers in a unified voice. So last year, we brought Breast Health Day to the European Parliament. And on October 15th, 2025, we highlighted one critical issue: the wide disparities in participation in breast cancer screening programs across Europe, from as low as 29% in Greece and Cyprus in some countries, and well over 80% in others, such as Denmark and Sweden, and a median EU country participation of about slightly over 50%. So we made a clear political ask to move toward declaring the 15th of October as a European Breast Health Day. And this would not just be symbolic. It would be about creating a visible and institutional commitment to promote prevention, to increase awareness, and to improve participation in screening programs. We were honored to have at this event President Roberta Metsola, and she joined our event, dressed in pink. And her words captured exactly why this matters. And let me give you a quote. So, no one should be left behind simply because of where we were born or what we can afford. We need to take this message further outside of this room that will lead to policy changes and progress that we can be truly proud of. And this is where the relevance goes beyond Europe. Breast Health Day is not just a European campaign. It should be viewed potentially as a model that we can also adapt globally through UICC networks, through national cancer control strategies, through patient organizations working in very different contexts. Because the principles are in fact universal. Shift the narrative from disease to health. Frame prevention as an investment and not a cost. Equip local organizations with consistent and actionable tools, and connect awareness directly to policy asks. This is how advocacy can become action, and this is how campaigns can move from communication to impact. So let me just close by this. The recognition by Oncopedia that saw Europa Donna as an example. It's not just Europa Donna. It's about what patient organizations can possibly achieve. And the declaration of the 15th of October as European, and why not, Global Day to mark and promote breast health may seem like, just words, but words do matter. They have the power to inspire action. They have the power to align stakeholders and to drive meaningful change. So in the end, it's up to all of us to use them wisely, and to turn them into action. So thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Marcia, for sharing this inspiring campaign and we'll be watching out to see how this progresses. So now we are happy to have some time before the end of the webinar to have Q&A from the audience. So you can feel free to just ask your questions directly in the chat or raise your hands and we will let you ask your questions. Just checking in the chat.
And Sabrina?
Yes.
So there is a comment about how people that are listening can leverage the resources we presented. So in terms of the Global Decade Report and the Global Charter, we at the Global Alliance, we have a software that translates everything in more than 100 languages automatically, so you can go online and read in your own language. And what we have done with our previous charter was to translate it also physically if needed. And if anybody is interested, just contact us. Because the charter can be used as a very powerful lobbying tool. And it's not very long. So it's for politicians, you have to be short and to the point. And so you can just say, look, these 10 goals have been defined by patients together with health professionals, with everyone involved. So let's not reinvent the wheel, but let's try to implement these goals. They are in line with GBCI. They are in line with the Europe's Beating Cancer Plan if your country is in Europe, but they are all aligned with what we've been discussing also with the last Lancet Commission for Breast Cancer. So just, the tools are here, the goals are here. Let's discuss where we are in our country and how can we achieve better progress in 1 decade. I know it seems very hard to tackle such a big problem. And so sometimes you just have to cut it in small pieces. And that's what the charter does, cut in small pieces and put measurable goals. And I didn't have time to go into the details, but the charter for each of the goals have sub bullet points telling you what actions you may take to achieve those goals.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Fatima, for sharing. I think it's really important to share, as you said, there are these tools that are there and they're really thought to be applicable and used directly to decision makers. And I love what you're mentioning here with the localization, the translation, because this is, we know from the global community who is attending the call today, such an important need and sometimes a barrier to use that kind of tool that fortunately you've thought about. And fortunately, with the developments of technology today, we have now good solutions to make these tools available in local languages. So Marzia, I see you're raising the hand. I'll let you, if you want to complete perhaps what was
I just wanted to add to explain why I've been speaking about prevention, because Europa Donna is in fact a breast cancer patient organization. So prevention was complementary. It was something that we started as a campaign in 2008 when there was no research and no evidence showing that actually some breast cancer occurrence and reoccurrence was in fact preventable. But let's not forget that our focus as a breast cancer organization is very aligned with the one of Fatima and ABC Global, and it is for breast cancer patients, because once you are diagnosed with breast cancer, that's exactly when your journey as a breast cancer person starts. And this is the people that we are serving. Prevention is stopping the wave, trying to avoid that this new wave starts of an epidemic. Younger and younger people are being diagnosed. Older and older people are not within the screening programs. It is an epidemic. It's the numbers and the projections are just scary. But this is not going to stop or prevent cancer from happening. So I presented a program that we have now. We have had a campaign around metastatic breast cancer. We keep working on breast cancer and breast cancer services. And I'd just like to make that clear. And I think Christina has a question, so I'll just shut myself up because I see time is running.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for your lovely efforts and contributions to this virtual dialogue. I just want to contribute, in fact, and following your idea now, Marcia, because I'm working on prevention. So back home in Portugal, I do health education, I do health promotion, and one of the biggest times that we have here is exactly Pink October, and I usually say that I would do my actions during the last second part of the month, so starting on the 15th and ending on the 30th, because in Portugal the 30th of October is a national day against breast cancer. So 15 days over there with a lot of things happening. But what I wanted to share, and I didn't write it down because it was very difficult to explain in a few words, is that this past year, uninspired with the motto for the World Cancer Day on UICC, I proposed to the community to think about the narratives around cancer and breast cancer, particularly in the community. Because when we go back to the community, it's very usual for us to listen people to say, oh yes, it's very important to do screening, or screening can save lives, or we should be aware of our own health. But when we say this to grown-up women, this may be okay, and they are going to be aware of that particular issues. But when we are working, for instance, in schools, which is the place where I work, this is nothing, because kids with 12, 15 years old, 18 years old, they are not aware of these impactful things for our own health. But this last October, when I asked teachers to think about the narratives about breast cancer, then we spotted the right way of doing things, I believe. Because then, when I am a youngster with, for instance, 12 years old, my mother is the one that is passing by breast cancer. And then my narrative is not that I should go for a screening, is that I should be supportive to that woman that has a breast cancer. And I can go around and around with a lot of examples, but the same with men, for instance. They are not going to do screening themselves, but they are the husbands, the brothers, the fathers, and the sons of women that are still doing that particular action, and it's not about only prevention. When we go back to narratives, it's about prevention, it's about treatment, it's about survivorship, and how can I have a role on that particular life that is passing by this example and this experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christiana, for your intervention. I see Myra with the hands up for quite some time. I would just like to include the question in the chat. We've received a few, but one is directly linked to this question from Rosa Ongeso. She's asking how we can leverage coordination in prevention as well as treatment to enable greater equity.
Yeah, just before I could answer that question, but I want to say that how amazing to see a strong community like this together. Okay, and Marcia, I believe in words. I still believe. I live in a middle income, and I still believe in words. Whatever we conquered here in Brazil is because we go and say our advocacy is very, very strong. And since we develop those tools for advocacy, we made strides. It's amazing. And I really think that what Europa Donna does, together with you, Fatima, and all, we are very strong believers that this is the way to go. So here we have oncologists, breast surgeons, advocates, we need to stick together, okay? Because pushing back, to prevention, education, Christiana, thank you very much for, I'm a firm believer that we have to go to schools, back to schools. I think we can make it. We can make it. But we have to prevent people to reach ABC. That's the point. So this is why the 60, 60, 80 targets have to, from GBCI, have to become a reality. I think because there is all addressed, and what we see in Brazil, for example, that we don't even know how many people get 80% completion of treatment. We don't know. So this is how difficult it is to put indicators in place, and we'll try to do that with GBCI. I don't know yet. We have to implement to see if we're going to read those not readable numbers yet, because we have to make efforts. In our countries, Fatima, we cannot afford to the treatments for advanced cancer anymore. We're still going backwards, because the new treatments are very, very, very expensive, and you are a firm believer that we need to think through this issue. So I think UICC is the platform ready to be here for us to discuss these things, solutions, because we know the problems. We know the problems. We know some of the solutions, but I think that we must, make our voice heard even stronger. I believe in words, Marcia.
Thank you so much. We're just going to have a last intervention, and then for reasons of time, we're going to close. I see Rania Azmi with the hand up.
Yes.
The last.
Well, lucky me. Thank you so much. It's like Rose, so thrilling to see your speakers, especially Dr. Fatima, our beloved one, and Marcia. Like really lovely to see you both, and Dr. Mary, of course, and all the family from UICC. I belong to both. But I really, my really comment very quickly. I needed to say, and Dr. Fatima is the best one to emphasize this, that the ABC Global Alliance did great job in this decade report and renewing it. The gaps are already very visible, actionable. So if we really coordinate the efforts, UICC, ABC, and all over, all of us, Europa Donna, of course, and we had the collaboration with Europa Donna Serbia. We can do much because the issues are there. We really need to move in actionable steps. I don't know why it's still frustrating. Not only the access to advanced drug, it's everything. Even simple thing as communication, best communication between oncologists and patients. Still, there are huge gaps in this. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rania, for emphasizing this. So I would like once again to warmly thank all of our wonderful speakers today. It's been very informative, and I want to congratulate you because I know you were given very little time to present very important data that you thoroughly developed. So we will be following up with all of the participants online, and the people who register to share the different resources you talked about, so everybody will have the time to really read and study. And we are here, UICC team, to hear back from you in the community on how you can use these tools. If you have any questions, we're also happy to put you in touch. And together, we want to see this great work in action. So thanks a lot, and let's stay in touch. All the best. Bye-bye.